Hello, everybody. It's Holger Müller here from Constellation Research, here to summarize my key takeaway from Amazon AWS reInvent 2024, which happened in Las Vegas this week. Massive conference as usual, lots of takeaways. Let's dive right back into it. That's my summary slide for the end. Let me quickly depart by where I started off last year, where the question before reInvent 2023 started is, would Amazon provide any large language model, which we know they did not. Big question why they didn't. No really clear answer. The answer was, hey, we will be Switzerland, we will have Bedrock, we will partner and invest over the year 2 times 4 billion tranches into Anthropic, and we'll let you choose what will happen there. Now it's kind of like clear as we go through it in a moment why that happened. But I don't want to steal the thunder here. Let's go through further findings of the event, which first of all was, by all means, a massive event. 60,000 attendees. We're almost at the 70,000 pre-COVID. 150,000 hotel nights, 35,000 the most on a Tuesday. 27,000 people at an expo, which is a record, as Andy Jassy shared here. 21 hotels participated with conference floors, nights, over 2,000 learning sessions, over 2,000 enterprises who brought 5 or more people, sorry for the typeware, even 18 to 20,000 stayed for the concert on Thursday night. And need to maximize the slide so I can read it. Over 12,000 ran the 5K. I would have liked to, I couldn't, too far away and still hounding a little injury. So overall, a massive mention. I'm not going to mention how many people got an AWS or whatever theme tattoo or got any haircuts there, right? But let's see further on what the takeaways are. Like, obviously, the big news is Amazon Nova is here, right? Amazon departed from the stance of large year, build an LLM. There's been a conversation if Nova is an LLM. It's certainly not a big, the ocean LLM like Llama or Gemini, which does everything from the consumer side. But if you think about that, Amazon always serves, AWS always serves what Amazon does. It supports the full retail experience of Amazon. And I think the data on Amazon as a retailer is similar to any of the medium-sized languages which are out there to index. So Nova is a very capable model. It ships today in the small version, the microtext only version, the light version, the pro version, and next year we'll see the premier version, which may have a dependency, Amazon didn't say that, on the new supercluster which is going to be built. It was built for Anthropic. It was mentioned from that perspective. So we'll see if there's going to be dependency or not. But the big departure is Amazon realized LLMs are important. Their partners do it as well. Just to mention one, SAP right away endorsed Nova, made it available for its AI hub. So it shows how important the native LLM support inside of Amazon is. Why did I think it's important for Amazon AWS to have that? Data gravity, right? You don't want to move your data to a consumer model, which I think is always relevant, right? All this conversation about little or bigger models is a conversation I should have. Jim Fourier, shout out to you. John Reed, shout out to you about the size of models. I have a specific opinion here, but let's not talk too much about models. The other interesting thing is the Uber SageMaker is here. Amazon prided itself, or AWS prided itself, to always have small teams, the famous 2 pizza teams. CTO Werner Vogels came up with that in his keynote again. Why? They had even a funny skit about how important the 2 pizza teams are. Now we don't have a 2 pizza team element anymore, right? SageMaker gets bigger, gets a data foundation. Check out my colleagues Doug Henson's blog post on that, how it becomes the one-stop for everything data. It's already been the one-stop for everything AI. The only thing that's missing, and I'm surprised that Amazon didn't go all the way, AWS didn't go all the way, Bedrock. Bedrock still lives by itself. Very important capability. It's the Switzerland place, has not been bundled into this. Maybe Amazon AWS wants to keep it a little separate or not directly related to it, which is understandable. From a usability for the user, why do you bundle things into an Uber SageMaker? Because it's easier to use suites, right? The golden rule, the only one rule, which so far since the beginning of enterprise software has been there, is say suites always win, right? And because suites always win, and that was my concern, my question also to Andy Jassy, and I repeated it to Matt Garman in the Q&A, is what has changed, right? Because Jassy would maintain if Amazon AWS would build bigger products, it would be the end of innovation, not moving fast, because suites require integration work and so on. McGowan's answer to my question in the executive Q&A was, well, you can get everything by yourself. As Doug Hinchen points out in his piece, you will have to pay for everything as a microservice as well. But there is a suite level thing which brings it together. So innovation is not going to stop. We will see integration will have to happen for the benefits. A very interesting departure from the AWS of the parts in terms of product philosophy from my perspective. But going always in the right direction because CXOs want to repeatable capabilities. Next, pun intended here, it's the fall of the lake houses. Not the fall falling, but fall of the season. Lakehouse has been announced at every major tech conference. Why does that matter so much? It matters a lot because lakehouses are the way to store everything that you need to store as an enterprise. Not just your transactional data, which is a question if you put it in there, depending on the vendor you talk, but also all your other data. And the important thing is that you can store everything at an affordable price without knowing what questions you want to ask. That is a key thing in my research area on infinite computing. This is the infinite insights layer. It's the foundation, and this is why it matters so much. And we see the renaissance right now in this year. It's so popular because it's the foundation for AI, which everybody has to do. Equally good to see, right? Amazon partnered with Oracle, not the only partnership in this space, of course. But the important thing from my perspective was I'm really disappointed by all the other vendors that, especially Microsoft, that Oracle partnered with. There's been no major innovation statement around Microsoft SQL Server. Amazon, good to know. AWS, good to know, has some mojo on the product development side, and it announced very timely, because relevant, Aurora DSQL, the distributed capability of running Aurora in multiple locations. Right in a place where Oracle can't go probably with its rack-heavy single location approach, an area where customers need solution, goes against Google's Cloud Spanner, which has been around since 8 or 9 years here in the space. They hadn't seen the uptake I was expecting here. Amazon clearly positioned it as being better from a SQL perspective and so on. So very good to see that there's animal spinach, product drive spirits, which make Aurora keeping developing. And that's actually what customers want to see. Should I now move from Aurora to Oracle, depending on costs and other parts, and like an Oracle, different story, or is there future development R&D happening on the Aurora side? Now, if distributed SQL is going to make you comfortable if you don't need it, that's a totally different story, which we'll have to dive in at some point. Moving on, close to developers, close to the application developer, good innovation, good capabilities coming out there across the board. It became very clear to me that a major focus, of course, for Amazon and AWS has been the whole time to bring workloads, on-premise workloads, to the cloud, right? And this is very clear in the focus of the Q developer innovations mentioned here. You can renovate Java applications. Here you have to remember, hey, a big Java user is Amazon itself. Amazon has a Java renovation problem. Super impressive numbers from the efficiency of how well code conversion can happen with large language models here in Q developer for Java. The same thing, of course, the perennial neighbor in Seattle, Microsoft. .NET applications are aging, and every time an application framework is aging or an application workload is aging, the migration question comes up, the modernization question comes up. Very interesting to see also here the code conversion capabilities. Everybody in the industry is going after VMware. There's no question about that. So certainly there's a VMware capability there, and no surprise, always been there in the past before, getting workloads from the mainframe, those 4 areas. More important actually than chasing other workloads, which is a legitimate business and helps customers who have older applications, is the ability to go back and forward in the software development lifecycle. I think that's a very good focus on the Q developer side, which means that Q can look into what is the intent of applications which you have, of code which you have there, can understand the intent of the code. It can help you writing documentation. And very important, no developer ever likes to write documentation, but even less they like to test the code because, of course, I think they wrote 0 bug-free code. And why do I test for this? So generating, which is a logically easy thing, generating the unit test. Not sure why the system test might be on the roadmap. We'll see that. But definitely is very valuable to generate the unit test to the code build there. So good capabilities on the Q developer side. Had a bunch of meetings on the Q team too. I want to write the Q architecture primer. It was always like, not really clear. Shame on me. I was thinking that Amazon would provide the foundation for everything and then build on top of that. in one of the meetings, the reaction on some of the innovations happening on the Lakehouse side, the reaction on another team, which I shouldn't mention here, it was clear to me Amazon is building these things all in parallel. This is why I took the picture of these skyscrapers being built in parallel. The difference, though, is that the skyscrapers will stand by themselves. In this case of Q, the overarching vision from last year, it is an overall Q one-stop shop for everything AWS. So at some point, those architectures or the skyscrapers will have to bring together. I mean, they have a common foundation, which logging in with access security. But last year we saw UI demos, right? A queue which would jump into, I believe, your systems which are running somewhere, which answer some product questions and generate some code. So one-stop shop for all of that, which is actually the hard thing for AWS to do, because it's a much, much bigger vision than the other cloud vendors and the competition I've seen, which is always much more domain focused. So obviously it takes longer. I think it's good progress. It's understanding that the different three areas, the Q developer areas, the Q business area, which has a couple, it's more like a tree. I should have taken trees here maybe, but trees grow by themselves and architectures and products don't grow by themselves. They need cranes to do the heavy lifting. So very, very important to look how these things will come together. And maybe next year in summer, maybe next year at reInvent 2025, we will see how all of that comes together. Last but not least, interesting observation. Andy Jassy stayed away from Adam Slipsky. I believe they had a fireside chat 2 years ago. I know that Andy Jassy had a fireside chat when he became the CEO of AWS with Jeff Bezos back at the time. But it was interesting that he did a large part of the keynote. And different interpretations are there. I just take it like this. Andy, you really want to make sure that certain things would be very crystal clear at this reInvent. He even did the man on the street. I took a screenshot here, videos every day about his highlights. Very interesting for the owning CEO picking what other things to see. But he did that, and I recommend everybody to watch Andy's keynotes, because obviously that's what is important for Amazon, what he thinks is important for customers, and that's what AWS will develop. Q is in there, Q developers in there, the Lakehouse is in there, already SQL is in there. It's pretty much what I'm talking about here. Maybe I've done the cliff notes to Andy Jassy. I want to claim to have done this. So to sum this all up, here's my one slide, which will go out earlier as usual. My one slide summary of the event, right? It's back in strength. We talked about 60,000 attendees all over the strip. Biggest event of the year. Everybody is there. Even people who have nothing to do with Amazon AWS, but the CIOs are there, the CTOs are there, everybody's there. Amazon goes LLM with Nova. The suites win. SageMaker is becoming the Uber suite, which gobbles everything around data and AI together as a one-stop shop. Lakehouse announced for the Q capability or SageMaker capability on the AI side, very important. Or SQL, DSQL, there's competitive spirits on the Amazon side. That's good to see. Q developer has significant progress on the migration side and supporting the software lifecycle. The Q architecture is more like separate growing towers, which hopefully at some point will come together. And Andy Jassy had his key takeaways here. Covering up my slide here, largest divergence is actually, there's the wrong text here. Apologies. The divergence that Amazon was not building as large LLM is now done, right? So that is history now. Did it hurt Amazon not to have that right away? It is clear why they didn't have it, because the platform wasn't there, right? Only now the ultra clusters and the super cluster they're building for themselves for unleashing Nova Premium, for supporting Anthropic, will make that possible. Overall, it's a great focus and great progress to CMQ. Well, that sums it up. I'm short at 14 minutes, a little bit longer than I want to talk about this. These are my key takeaways from AWS reInvent 2024. If you were there, if you're watching from the bleachers, from anywhere else, if I missed something, if you don't agree with something, if I did something wrong, by all means, please be social, please be vocal. Let me know. Looking forward to hear from you. Thanks for watching. This is Holger Müller from Constellation Research. Appreciate you being here.